You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Engage.
78 years have passed since the days of the original USS Enterprise. Now a new Galaxy starship has been designed.
Hailing frequencies open. Welcome to Galaxy Class, a Star Trek The Next Generation podcast on BQN. I'm your host, Ambassador Stephen.
And I'm holo photographer Stefan.
How's it going, Stefan?
It's going great. Technical snafus aside, we're here, I think.
Listeners, welcome. As you've heard in our last episode, we've changed things up a little bit. Heath was no longer able to be on Galaxy Class. Hopefully we'll hear him at some point as a guest co-host. But I was grateful and lucky to meet Stefan at STLV this past year and snag him into talking about Star Trek with me. It was a really tough sell, wasn't it?
I was trying to get away as fast as I possibly could, but you just weren't picking up on those social cues. So here I am somehow.
Well, we're grateful to have you here. So for today, we're going to discuss kind of our Trek background, some favorites from the Next Generation for both of us. We'll do a fun little segment that we're going to call Collector's Card Roulette. And then we'll wrap up today by discussing our plans, what's coming up in Galaxy Class. So Stefan and I will be your co-hosts, and we're excited to do this. Do you want to dive in?
Let's do it.
This is the captain. Senior officers will report to my ready room immediately.
Who are we? Who are we as Star Trek fans? Who are we as Star Trek The Next Generation fans? Stefan,
Who are you?
what is well, let's say, what is your Trek journey? What is your earliest TNG memory?
My earliest TNG memory is sort of being aware of Next Generation. I watched a lot of the original series movies first, and my earliest TNG memories, I suppose I should say, were me not really liking TNG, but my friends at school liking it. And I eventually got into it after I guess I convinced my mom to buy me a phaser toy from Next Generation.
Nice.
And then I think I started thinking, I guess I should maybe watch this show. My friends are into it. So the first TNG episode I remember sitting down and actually watching and paying attention to was the Pegasus, which is that episode where Riker gets with a previous captain who's like doing some shady stuff because they had experimented with a transphasic cloaking device. I don't remember if that's the term, something like that. It phases through matter. People got like embedded in the rock of an asteroid, and it's this whole like cover-up episode. And I remember sitting down to actually watch that. And then I wouldn't say I was like immediately hooked. I had a little bit of a tough time getting my brain outside of like the original series. But I eventually came around and I ended up watching it like pretty much every day after school. Not that one episode, but the series. And that's my earliest remembering or recollection of paying attention to the show.
Fantastic. So not an innocent fan, which, as
No.
we know, lots of folks railed against. Well, this isn't the original series. This isn't who we know. But you came around, huh?
I did. I came around, and I think I always kind of had an interest in it. I just couldn't get into just a different flavor of Star Trek, which I think I've definitely gotten over, because at this point I've seen them all and I love them all. So I'm in. And considering that you're hosting a TNG podcast as well, I'm assuming you're in as well. Do you want to tell me about your earliest TNG memories?
Absolutely. So TNG was my entry point to Star Trek. I
Mm.
recall watching Star Trek 4, the one with the whales.
The
It
official
was like
title.
on yeah, right. It was on
Hmm.
television. I remember recording it on VHS. I'm that old, folks.
Sweet.
But then that's just that's my earliest original series memory. But TNG came out when I was just a little kid, and my dad always loved science and technology. I remember watching a show on, I think it was the Discovery Channel, called Beyond 2000. So this was like mid 80s, looking at what technology would be like beyond the year 2000. So when Star Trek The Next Generation came on, we started watching this together. So it was something that he really enjoyed. The technology bit, military background, like it was like a nice fit between the two. And I just
So you guys
watched it with
started
him
watching it from the start.
when it aired. Yeah, when it first aired.
So you
So
guys were there on day one?
day one, yeah,
Cool.
we were
Love
there
it.
on the ground level, ground floor. So yeah, so it was great. We started watching it then, and I watched it consistently there from there on. In fact, I recall when Deep Space Nine was going to premiere during the run of TNG, I had a rehearsal that night, so I was an Inquirer kid, and so I was going to miss it. So I like the episode so that I could watch it later on. I became a fast fan and was very much into Star Trek. So TNG was my entry point to Star Trek, and still to this day remains near and dear to my heart.
Now, should we talk about where our fandom has branched off since then to other series, or just save that chat for a later episode?
We can talk about that, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's where it kind of started off for me, and then I've been a fan since. Now, Stefan, was that it for you? Did you get into other series? Are there series that you love, series you don't love? Like where are you now? Where did your fandom go?
I can actually remember when Voyager was going to premiere. I I don't remember, this was 93, right? When Deep Space Nine launched. I don't remember that happening, but I do remember when Voyager was going to launch. And I remember being very excited about this, seeing stuff on TV about it and like promotional material. So I was kind of like, Voyager wasn't my entry point, but it was the first series that was like wholly like new. And I kind of just went on the journey from year one to year seven. And from there, of course, like Enterprise came out, which like I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of busy during the Enterprise era watching a lot of the Ronald D. Moore Battlestar Galactica series, which is phenomenal. So I was kind of a bad Star Trek fan at that time, but I did catch most of it, and I've seen it all at this point. And from then, a few years later, we get the JJ movies. And then a few years after that, we got Discovery, yeah. We got Discovery and Picard, etc. I was not a huge fan of Lower Decks when it came out. I don't know why. That show is great. So I love them all, and I've watched every episode of every series. I'm constantly in a rewatch of all of the shows. So right now with the classic Trek shows, and I'm talking like everything through the end of Enterprise in 2005, with that kind of group of shows, I think I have 254 episodes currently in my rewatch of them all. So I essentially have a staggered list of episodes that I watch in order. And so I'm kind of like whittling them down.
Impressive.
Um, yeah, I don't have the same going for modern Trek because I've just sort of watched and rewatched it as it's been released. But I am kind of constantly always rewatching all the what I kind of refer to as the classic series.
Nice. So I was really interested in Deep Space Nine when it came out, but I do recall a few seasons in, I got bored with it. Yeah,
A
I
few
remember talking
seasons in.
a few seasons in, and I remember saying to friends of mine, "Oh, it's just like a Deep Space soap opera. Like, there's so much drama." Fast forward years later, I started going to Star Trek Las Vegas, the convention, with a good friend of mine, and his favorite series is Deep Space Nine. And when he found out I never got past like season 4, I was instructed to watch it again. So as an adult, I sat down and watched the whole
Mm.
thing, and it is phenomenal. I think it was the age I was at when it came out, because from an adult perspective, it's such a good show, such a good show.
Did you start
And then
watching it with your dad, just like with TNG?
no, TNG was with my dad, but that was it for him. When they started making other ones, he was like, "No, I'm good," right? Like,
Yeah.
so that was on my own. And then when Voyager came out, UPN 9 was the station that Voyager was that was their flagship thing. After 1 year, the local cable provider dropped UPN. So, right, we didn't have streaming
Oh,
services. We didn't have other. So I watched season one. I really enjoyed it, and then I had no access to it again. So it wasn't until it started
oh,
streaming years later that I watched all of Voyager. And Enterprise, I got to tell you, I so I'm a trained musician, classically trained, and when the first time I watched it, those opening credits came on and that song came on, I was like, nope.
you're like, yes,
I didn't
banger,
even
sold.
watch the episode. I just stopped it.
Oh
I was like,
God, all right.
nope. It completely shut me down, turned me off. I was like, nope, this is not a Star Trek show. Again, years later, I watched all of Enterprise, very much enjoyed it. So I
So
really
here's
enjoyed
the question.
all the original Trek.
With your music background, here's the question. So
Uh,
Enterprise started off with that theme song, of course, right? And
mhm.
then what was it? Season 3, they sort of remixed it to this sort of like almost country rock sounding version. Which one do you think is better?
Where's the crickets chirp soundbite?
You're like, excuse me, I'll see myself out.
It I don't know. This is where, so as I get older, this is an outlook I'm having with life now, right? Things that I felt
Yeah.
so strongly about, I look at it now and say it doesn't matter. What a gift that we get more Trek. What a gift that we get to see a story that we maybe heard tell of in different conversations or whatever. It's alluded to but not fleshed out, and then we got it fleshed out because someone decided to do a series. So
Mhm.
I view it from that vantage point now, but at the time was very much against like this. I don't know, it felt silly to me.
The
But again,
song,
the
like
song, just
yeah,
the
yeah.
intro, it threw me. It really threw me, and it's such a strong reaction to have something like this. And again, I look back on it and feel silly because I should have just watched it when it was out because it's a great series. Fast forward to the new Treks. I got CBS All Access specifically to watch Discovery.
Same.
Really enjoyed that there was new Trek, and the main character isn't the captain. Like, she's a lower ranked officer, and there's this turmoil and this and that. But I watched it with a friend who the two of us really were disappointed in the first few episodes because so many things happened that weren't, in our opinion at the time, like Trek, right? Like, Klingons didn't look like
Mhm.
Klingons. I remember, I don't know, season or episode 3 or 4, there was like an emergency medical transport, right? Emergency transport to sick bay that didn't exist yet. And then we learned that they hadn't hired a continuity consultant until after they had filmed like episode 5. And I was like, all right, you know what? Take a step back, take a deep breath. There's new Trek. That's all
Yeah.
that matters. And this is wonderful. It's a solid sci-fi show. It's interesting with new storylines, but bringing in old characters. And how flippin' cool is this? So yeah. And then I watched all the new Trek and have enjoyed it since. There hasn't really been a series that I haven't enjoyed. There's been maybe seasons I haven't been as thrilled about, but overall
Yeah.
I've enjoyed everything
That's
that's come
fair.
out. You mentioned about your rewatch. I rewatch most of the original Trek quite often, classic Trek, as you put it. I have no system for it. I just sit down. I'm like, I guess I'll watch Deep Space Nine now, and then I'll pick a number between one
Well,
and seven, pick a number
Steven,
between
let
one
me
and
tell you,
25.
it might be a good thing that you don't have a system because this list that I created, where I basically created this list manually by pulling lists of all of the episodes of all the classic series and then figuring out where I was then in my current rewatches, which was in all different places in these shows. And so I took the remaining episodes and manually staggered them in a list so that I would be watching them like alternating shows, but then that they would all sort of like come to the end, like staggering each show. That's not a very good explanation. Basically, I have a lot more TNG right now because I was earlier in the show to rewatch. So my list right now like kind of alternates TNG, Deep Space Nine, TNG Voyager, TNG Deep Space Nine, TNG Voyager, and later on I'll get to Enterprise being kind of mixed in with all of them. Ultimately, when I get near the end of this list, I'll be kind of staggering all of the shows until I finish them with everybody's favorite episode. These are the Voyagers of Enterprise. So that took me like 3 hours to put together this list, but and could I've spent my time better doing something else? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think you necessarily need a system to rewatch the shows, but I felt that I needed to blow 3 hours of my time making sure that I had a comprehensive checklist.
Hey, everyone does it sort of in a way that works for them. The interesting thing that I'll see with my friends is that we're all rewatching. All my friends who love Trek, it's not that we watch something and then it's done. We're all rewatching kind of all the time. And
Yeah.
that's great because you pick up things you didn't notice before, or you make
Or you
connections you didn't
forget
make.
stuff.
Yeah. Okay. My most recent rewatch of TNG, which is, I don't know, like I've seen that so many times, but there were whole episodes I forgot existed.
Yeah.
And again, a gift of, oh, I don't actually remember what happens here. Let me just sit back and
Yeah.
enjoy this. So it's
Yeah.
fun. It's fun to get to rewatch, make the connections, and it's funny now thinking about the podcast, right? Folks, you'll hear I am terrible with the names of episodes, so I need to know in advance kind of some things so I can look things up because I can tell you what happened, roughly what season it is, but I have so many friends that are like, "Oh yeah, the Samaritan Snare," or whatever. Like they just know the episode names, know what the original air date, who directed the
Yeah.
episode. I fully embrace the fact that there are databases existing that we can type into and find that information. I'm not going to remember those things.
But
Uh,
you're not a walking version of that.
I'm not, and so many of my
Yeah.
friends are.
I'm
So
not really either. I mean, I do know episode names and I know plots, but like do I know every single detail of every single episode of TNG, all what 178 of them? No, I don't.
I mean, that's what Mike and Denise Akudo were for. I
Yeah.
have the encyclopedia. Actually, I have two versions of it. Great. I look up stuff in there. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful resource. And no, we're not getting paid by the Okudas.
Yeah. So I just looked up my playlist of all of the classic Trek series to see where I was at. And I have, in fact, 257 episodes left until I finish all of the original classic series, which again, I've seen them all before, but just in this recent watch through.
Nice. Well, speaking back to TNG,
Yeah.
uh, what is your favorite season of Next Generation?
You know, this is a tough one for me because I have possibly the most like nostalgic fondness for what some consider the turd of a season number 2. Um, do I think it's the best season? Absolutely not. But I'm kind of a big fan of a few episodes in that season. We've discussed the Royale. I think that's a super fun concept. I think some of the concepts maybe weren't executed exactly as good as they could have been, but I like season 2 a lot. As for what is my actual favorite season, I was thinking about this earlier today and recently in anticipation of answering this question, and honestly I think it's whatever season I happen to be rewatching, which sounds like a cop out. If I had to pick one, I guess maybe season 4, but generally I like them all, even though some say the quality sort of starts to dip in season 6 and 7. They start focusing on crew members' families, which I don't have a problem with that. Like I actually I like that element of the show. So my answer to this question is I don't really have the a favorite season. I do love them all. Maybe not so much season 1, but I don't skip season 1 or 2 when I'm rewatching or any of them really. So that's my answer, or
Okay.
that's my non-answer. How about you, Stephen?
I really do enjoy the whole series. And I also have a fondness for season 2. but my favorite season is definitely season 5. There's a number of episodes in
Yep.
season 5 that strike me. We'll talk about it a little bit later. My favorite episode comes from season 5. There's just so many wonderful moments for me in season 5 that I find often if I'm searching for an episode to watch, I'll land somewhere in season 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, season 5 for me. There isn't a season I particularly dislike because I see it as all part of the fabric of what wove the story for us that gave us all these other myriad series of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like it all. So similarly, I think there's individual episodes that I wish they'd kind of gone a different way or made a different choice, but I'm sure we all have that for any show
Yeah.
we watch.
Sure.
But season 5, I think there's episode Darmok, Ensign Rowe, Unification Parts 1 and 2, The Outcast, Cause and Effects, I Borg, The Inner Light. I mean, there's just so
Hmm.
many incredible episodes that deal with such a wide range of topics. I find I talk about this season probably more than any other, just in terms of conversations and where things come up with people. But yeah, season 5.
Season
That's my
5.
favorite.
Yeah. Solid.
How about
Um,
favorite episode?
yeah, I was gonna say, so your favorite episode comes from season 5. At some points in my life, my favorite episode actually came from season 5, and you listed it. But why don't you go ahead, Steven? I want to know what your favorite episode is.
So my favorite is The Inner Light.
All right. Classic.
I It's to this day, The Inner Light aired on June 1st, 1992. So 33 years ago almost.
Yeah.
I still tear up at the end of that episode. It still gets me emotionally 3 decades and change later. The way they encapsulate an entire civilization through this probe, how it shows Picard as someone who lives this life, right? He lives this entire other life, but it's the way they share their culture and traditions. I think it was such an interesting choice for how to run an episode, and that the bulk of the episode is focused on this whole other life that Picard's living,
Right.
um, as a member of the society. And I don't miss the Enterprise crew. I'm not really wondering what's going on the ship. I'm completely entranced, engulfed, engaged, no pun intended, uh, with what's happening on this planet with Picard and these
Yeah.
people. And yeah, I find it engaging. I find it sort of what's the phrase? A cautionary tale
Mm. Yeah.
of being aware of what's happening to your world and doing something
Yeah.
about it
I was
when
gonna
it's still
ask.
possible.
I was gonna ask, what was that a big part of why you liked that episode? The sort of like interesting angle of everybody there sort of knows that there's this impending disaster, and so it's sort of like watching this society kind of try to navigate that issue,
I think that's a
or
piece of it, but I
yeah,
think that more so now, I think that it's the beauty in trying to find moments of connectedness, of joy, of like the tree, right? We're all giving a bit of our water portioning to make sure this tree is living, and coming together to celebrate things that matter, right? The
hmm,
people and milestones, and the conversation that he has with his wife about their son studying music,
yeah,
right? It's so touching, and I think really gets to me. Star Trek does a great job with connecting us to our humanity, right?
yeah,
Like what it means to live this existence, and to hurt, to grow, to love, to weep, to be, right? And this one episode encapsulates that human experience, I think, so well,
yeah.
in so many different ways. And maybe I'm ascribing too much to it, through my wistful uh,
No, no, no.
recollection, but it's just such a beautiful story to me. And there's lots of great episodes in Star Trek: The Next Generation, lots of great
Yeah.
episodes even just in this season. But that episode just it stands out to me, and the fact that it can still move me 3 decades on is telling for me. Yeah.
Yeah, this may be a bit of a tangent, but do you know the scene in The Inner Light where we hear Picard's son in that world kind of playing the flute or playing music, um, and just a little snippet of that melody Jeff Russo built into the Star Trek Picard theme song. I did
Yes.
not know this until well after Picard launched, and I remember like the moment I saw that online, I was like, "Holy crap, what?" Because when initially Picard was announced, it wasn't just me, but I saw a lot of people online being like, "Oh, they need to incorporate the Inner Light theme into the Picard series, like opening intro or whatever." And they didn't do that, but Jeff Russo very cleverly used, I think, some of Jay Chataway. I think he was the composer on that episode, some of his score, and just sort of like built around that. And that was, I love that sort of like through line and little reference.
It's interesting you bring that up. When I remember sitting down to watch the first episode, and I heard it. I heard it.
You recognized it.
I recognized it,
Ah,
and I get so excited. And this is terrible because I don't recall who I was watching the first episode with. I watched it with a friend, another Star Trek friend, and I'm forgetting now who it was. So if you're out there listening to this, I apologize. But I was like, oh my god, that's a motif from the Inner Light, and I think it's really lovely how they throughout Picard brought in music from other parts of Trek, specifically Next Generation, both the series and the movies, to Picard. I think that it was
mhm.
just the right amount of nostalgia to bring back for us, especially as a musician like that. I mean, I think for all of us, music plays a strong role, but it's definitely near and dear to me. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Okay, so I'm curious now. What's your favorite episode?
Okay, so this is another tough one, but I would say that Darmok is maybe at the top of my list. I always liked that episode, but at some point, I had an English teacher that made us watch that episode in class because we were talking about language barriers, and I had no idea we were going to watch a Star Trek episode in class, but like walked in there and she was like, "We're going to watch this." And we watched it, and I hadn't really thought that hard about how important and powerful that episode is, and how it speaks to the combination of cooperation and communication and patience. And I'm a huge fan of kind of when Star Trek highlights how we can be the best of ourselves. And in this sort of deadly situation where Picard and the other captain, Dathan,
Yes.
how they're thrown on this planet with this monster that's going to kill them, and how they have to learn to communicate and how to team up and ultimately try to save themselves. I always appreciated that episode from the angle of highlighting the importance of communication and patience, which is applicable not in just foreign situations like in this episode, but just in life in general.
That's beautiful.
It's a
I
great show.
loved how they brought I'm forgetting the species name.
Were they
Um
Temerians?
yes, Temerians. So when they brought Temerians into lower decks, they had
Oh yeah,
a Temerian officer. I was like, this is great. I
yeah,
love it. I
security
love
guard.
it.
Yeah, I remember hearing that announced and being like, "All right, I'm here for whatever hot mess is gonna come out of this."
Yeah, they did a great job with throwing all sorts of connections and Easter eggs into lower decks for us. But okay, so we've discussed kind of how we got into Trek, Next Generation, our favorite season, a favorite episode. Now, who is your favorite character?
I do love them all, including Pulaski,
I like
but,
her. I think she gets a bad rep.
uh, she does get a bad rap. So, yeah, she's not my favorite, but I do like Pulaski. I like them all. But if I were to pick a favorite character, um, I like Geordi. Geordi was in fact Geordi and Guinan were the first two action figures I ever owned.
Oh, nice.
That's not why, but I like Geordi because Geordi to me has always felt like, aside from like a few sort of awkward situations with women, like I always felt like he was a pretty well balanced character in that, like, he came across as very broadly likable, right? So, like, he may not have like the most distinct like personality compared to like Data or like Riker, but he really is his own character that I feel is very broadly accessible and well balanced. And I've heard people call him kind of boring, and I don't believe that. I think Jordy is like, if I was at a party, I'd probably just go start talking to Jordy because he just seems like a, I don't know, he's just got like a nice friendly vibe, and he's a loyal, dedicated engineer and also the best friend of an android. So that's an interesting sort of statement on having an open mind. Like, he's provided Data with friendship, and that's one of the most important parts of being a human being, and what Data is has always been after, right? So I always liked their friendship and how they sort of came back to that friendship in Picard season 3. But yeah, I've always liked the Geordi character. I've always liked LeVar Burton as an actor and a host. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Geordi LaForge.
I want to share a quick moment from STLV a few years back. It involves LeVar Burton, and this is why he's one of my favorite humans. He was discussing the props and the things they had to use and how the visor came to be.
Oh, I
And
think I know where you're going with this.
he
Go
had
ahead.
the case. There was a panel conversation, right, and a bunch of folks were on stage, and he had the visor in the little prop case, and he discussed it, and he picked it up and held it to the camera so folks in the audience can see it. And then, if you're familiar with Star Trek Las Vegas, they have folks line up on either side of the stage to ask questions. And someone came up to ask a question. He said, I understand you show this. I'm blind. I can't see that, but I just, the representation of someone blind. And then, and I'm gonna get emotional telling the story. LeVar, of course, he can't see him doing this. LeVar Burton gets up and was walking over to the end of the stage so that he could, see by through tactile connection the piece. And I was like, oh my god, like, like people are like crying all around, like
Yep.
what a beautiful, beautiful moment. And he's just such a beautiful human. And yeah, so
Yeah.
I love that the person you chose and the reasons you chose the character also apply to the man. Like she's just like a wonderful
100%.
human.
Yeah, I was there. I was actually, I think I was outside in the rotunda, and I had walked in when that started to happen, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." Yeah.
Yeah, it was really incredible.
Okay. Well, how about your favorite character, Steven?
So for years, my answer would have been Jean-Luc Picard because of the way he led and the way he grew and all these things. And I still have strong adoration for Jean-Luc Picard and Patrick Stewart for how he played him. But now that I really think about it, the character that maybe brings me most joy or most entertainment or just I think of with fondness is Lwaxana Troy.
All right.
This
Wild choice.
woman this woman was a gay icon before they were talking
Mm,
about gay icons on
yeah.
episodic television.
Yeah.
She the flamboyance and the overconfidence and the flirtation and I mean she was just what a joy when we have a Lwaxana episode.
Yeah.
And I especially love the impact she has on Picard when he actually gets shy or bashful or embarrassed. And oh, Jean-Luc,
Yeah.
when she's reading his thoughts. I just, she's the quintessential like meddlesome mother, and she's so much fun. She's just so much fun. And I really appreciate, now this is not a TNG reference, but the episode in Deep Space Nine, which name the title I'm gonna forget, but where she and Odo are stuck in the turbo lift,
Oh
and
god. Yeah.
and he needs to revert to his form, and she uses her wig, right, to hold him,
Mhm.
and shows a side of her that we don't see so much in TNG. But she's just, I think they did a
Yeah.
great job growing the character. I think there was a lot of growth in that character, I think she was fun. I wish I would have had an opportunity to go to a convention where Majel Barrett was there to ask her what was that like, right? How
Yeah.
did it feel to put on the wig and the flowy outfits and the, I just
Yeah.
I imagine she must have had so much fun playing that character. And I personally just appreciate Loxana. I think
Yeah.
she's a hoot.
That is not the pick that I expected, but I love it. Loxana and Q for me are sort of these two characters that almost feel like they don't belong in the show and they're just gonna go in there and just mess with everybody. Like they don't speak in the same sort of like cadence as the other Star Trek characters. They don't feel like they
Mhm.
really fit in this sort of like clean uniform world with our characters. They're like there to just stir things up. And yeah, Loxana is just audacious and just big in so many ways and just like steamrolls Picard with just her playful antagonism, right? She doesn't have any malice about it. She's just she's just having fun. And
Yeah.
yeah, she's a real vibe change from like everybody else hanging out on the Enterprise. It's a good pick.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm glad you
She's
I'm glad you brought up that Deep Space Nine episode where she's in the turbo lift with Odo. Like, I feel like that is such a powerful, just kind of dismantling of this facade of hers that we're so used to, and kind of lets us see underneath that she's not just a tornado of chaos. Like she's got a real heart and she's a real person that helps to connect with Odo, who is feeling a little bit ashamed, I guess, in his circumstance of kind of needing to revert back to his gelatinous state, and she's just kind of like, well, there's there's a different version of me under all of this as well. And yeah, it's a really great moment. I'm glad you brought that up.
it's beautiful. So she's fun. Whenever I think of her, I smile, and I appreciate that. So
Yeah.
thinking about the Enterprise itself, right? So we get introduced to the Enterprise D, this new Galaxy class starship, so much larger than any ship we've seen to date on Star Trek. What would you say is your favorite section of the ship?
This is a tough one to think about because obviously if I went to the Enterprise, I'd want to go on the bridge and press all the buttons. But if I think about me just in my life right now, like what would I geek out over if I was on the Enterprise? Like what would be my favorite space? And I came up with the Ready Room because I'm a huge fan of optimizing my workspace and kind of like organizing things in just like a perfect way so that everything is accessible and everything's balanced and ergonomic. And so I think I like how Picard's ready room is set up in that it's like spacious but not too spacious. It's comfortable for guests. There's a couch there. I always liked the desk design of his. I'm gonna go with the ready room.
I just want to say how much I appreciate your answer, and this is why we're friends.
Yeah,
Like I feel like this is one of those connection pieces
yeah,
because my workspace, if it's not set up in a way that I find efficient and organized and accessible, I can't do anything. I can't do it. I have to nope. I'd rather sit on
yeah.
my bed with a laptop than sit at my desk if it's not set up well. So I appreciate that vantage point of it's set up well
Yeah,
to be used.
it's kind of a weird thing to geek out about, but I totally do. So, yeah.
I'm sure we're not the only ones. So maybe going out on a limb here, but my favorite section is only actually I'm not even sure if it's referred to in the series, but we see it in the films.
Uh,
Stellar cartography.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
As a child, I was so fascinated with space and the stars, and I remember bringing my physical encyclopedia outside to try to find a constellation and the
Mm,
flashlight, but not too bright because then your eyes have to adjust again and da 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 da. To be able to go to a room and say, I want to see what this section of the galaxy looks like, punch it up and see it, I would spend days in there. I would spend days. Well,
yeah.
what happens here? What happens if we do this? If we look at it from this vantage point, if I don't know, this moon were to adjust its orbit, if this, I mean, I would be entertained for ages in that space. I think it's such a cool room, such a cool space, and it's they show it on the Enterprise D during
Yep.
Generation. So I'm gonna just go with that as Next Generation section of
Yeah.
the ship that I really appreciate. I think it's such a fun and useful space.
Yeah. And aren't the graphics so cool? Like I think
Yeah.
that the way that I think the design language, not just in itself, but in motion, still works so well today. You know,
Mhm.
like you said, when remove a star and see how a ship's trajectory changes. Just when they were kind of like scrolling through the space, it's just a really nice simple interface that feels smooth and welcoming and yeah, that's a great set.
That's fun. So much fun. So, final favorites throughout Star Trek, especially in the newer Treks, right? We see uniforms change even within a season. In Next Generation, not so much change over the course of the series, more so in the films, right? But thinking about the TNG era uniforms, what's your favorite uniform, Stefan?
Yeah, because the maroon uniforms from the TOS movies showed up in Next Generation, um on Rachel Garrett, on I think a flashback or a hologram of Troy's father, Wesley's father. Was it Troy's father? I'm gonna send the hate mail to me. I don't know if it was like Troy's father. Was he in Starfleet?
He was.
Anyway, okay.
He was. He was
Anyway,
stationed in Beta Z.
okay. So anyway, I like the maroon uniforms from the original series do show up in Next Generation, and those are my favorite design if I'm just looking at uniforms from the show. I know they sort of predate Next Generation, so if I had to pick something from specifically inside of Next Generation, I don't really know what I would pick, but I'm gonna go with those marine uniforms if you'll allow me.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer here. We're just discussing what we like.
True.
It's funny because in all of Trek, what you just described, that is my favorite uniform of Trek.
Mm.
But I don't wanna feel like I'm copying out here and copying you. So I'm
Well,
going to go with the Starfleet Academy uniforms. It's the first time we see the inverse of the maroon and black.
okay. Yeah.
The Starfleet Academy cadet uniforms. I thought those were so sharp. They just really stood out, and I love that they ended up incorporating those into the films, and making that the new version of the uniform. But the inversion of the maroon and the black, so having the maroon shoulders and the black torso, as opposed to the reverse we're used to. I thought it was a great juxtaposition of sort of the rank piece, the cadets versus officers. But also, I just thought it was sharp. I just think it looks really good. In fact, I own one.
Do you?
um,
Cool.
yeah, it's the Deep Space Nine uniform essentially, right? Yeah. Anyway, I think that's a really just sharp looking uniform. I don't have anything about how utilitarian it is or how functional, versatile. I mean, I just like it. I think visually, it's a sharp looking uniform.
I have a side tangent question. You remember when Generations came out and in that movie, our characters were wearing a combination of the uniform from the TV series and then this newer version where the stripe of colors up at the shoulders, right? Did you find that confusing? Like, what were your thoughts when did you like me try to come up with a canon explanation as to why they would have multiple different versions of the uniform at the same time?
So I did think it was odd. It did not make sense to me. I appreciated the uniforms, but it didn't make sense to me why they'd have, and even like Bridge Crew, right? Started off with the series uniform and ended up in the new version. But I
Yeah.
read later on in an interview that the production reason for that is that they didn't want to spend the money to make all these new costumes for everyone, so they just wanted to use what was in stock for as many people as they could. But they realized they had to work it in somehow, so that's why some of our actual main characters started off in the series uniform and ended up in the new uniform, was to make it seem less odd, but it was just to save money. And I don't
All
know if
right.
you came up with anything that could connect it to canon, because it doesn't the flagship of the Federation, if there was a uniform change, they would change everyone's uniform at once.
Yeah,
In my estimation of how the Federation and how Starfleet works, if they
yeah,
were to have a fleet uniform change, they would just change it.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember when Voyager was on the air and Deep Space Nine moved to the sort of first contact gray shoulder uniforms. And like, I remember discussions about, is Voyager going to get these new uniforms? Well, why would they? They're into the Delta Quadrant. Or is there something in the computer that would like maybe automatically update for them so they would get the new uniforms? Ultimately, they didn't, right? Um, as for generations, no, I didn't really come up with any real reasons why they'd have a mixture of uniforms other than they're transitioning to the new uniforms and just kind of wearing out the old ones. I don't know, it didn't really make sense. Didn't need to. I love that movie, flaws and all. I'm into it, so I don't really have a good reason for the uniforms changing, but I did always wonder, like, do other people have a problem with this? This seems weird.
It was weird. It was totally weird, but
Yeah,
we'll forgive them.
yeah,
Great. So, listeners, that'll give you a little bit of a insight into who we are as Star Trek fans, specifically our interests in the Next Generation. We hope you found that interesting. Feel free to ask us questions. At the end of the show, we'll give you how to reach out to us via social media. But yeah, I think that's in a nutshell kind of who we are as Star Trek and TNG fans.
yeah.
It might be interesting to note that we've only known each other for what, 6 months, 7 months at this point?
Somewhere around there. Yep.
Yeah. How did we meet? Who are you?
Who are you? How did I get here? So yes, we met at STLV last year. You can let me know if your recollection of this is not the same as mine, but we were leaving the concert. The Nevada Pops Orchestra had been playing Star Trek music, and we were leaving there. I was headed toward whatever the iBar is called now. Lapa Lounge? That
Not
sounds
sure.
like something. Anyway, I was going in that direction, and I think you were talking to somebody I started talking to, and then we started talking. Your friend Lisa was there, and we were talking about the show and Jeff Russo's choice in music, and then we just kept talking from there.
Yeah,
And that's like, is that what
that sounds
happened?
about right. And then I ran into you, I think it was the next day in the area, and we chatted some more. I think we were in oh gosh, they used to call it Quarks and now it's called something else because they can't.
Jimmy's?
And we watched something there, and then we exchanged info. We said, hey, we've had a few good conversations. Let's
Yeah.
continue this.
Yeah, it
Um,
felt like natural conversation. And yeah, so when we started talking about, I think I actually volunteered to be on your podcast because you were like, I'm taking over Galaxy class. And I was like, oh, cool. I listen to them. And it just felt like we could very naturally talk about Star Trek. So I figured I would volunteer, and then now I'm here.
Yeah, I'm glad it worked out. I think it's been lovely to get to know you as an individual and as a Trek fan, fellow Trek fan. And now here we are talking about this thing that we appreciate and enjoy, and sharing this with other folks who share our love of Star Trek.
That's right. And next up is a little segment we like to call Collector's Card Roulette. So this
Stefan,
is just an idea I had that maybe we'll keep doing this. Maybe it'll be the last time. I don't know. But here's the scenario. Steven's got a pack of Star Trek cards unopened, right? Steven, why don't you tell us what series of cards that is?
so I'm looking at the wrapper. It says the intact wrapper. I've not opened it yet. Star Trek Edition Skybox Master Series. This is from let's see, 1993 Skybox. So these are original
Okay.
unopened collector's cards.
All right. So the segment here is we're going to have you open that pack, and then don't look at all the cards, just pull one out, and you and I are going to try to like have a conversation about whatever the hell is on the card. If it's a Deep Space Nine card, we can try to have a conversation about how that connects back to TNG. Or if it's a TNG thing, we can talk about our own memories associated with whatever character or ship or episode. I have no idea what is going to be in there, so let's just see what happens. This could be interesting or it could be boring as hell. Let's do it.
All right. All right. I'm not going to look into it.
Listeners,
That was
he's
satisfying.
destroying the wrapping.
All right. First card out. All right. The Guardian of Forever.
The Guardian of Forever. Okay.
We have a TOS card. This is card number 61, The Guardian of Forever. The artist is Steve Gardner. Inspiration is The City on the Edge of Forever. He wrote, I drew this very same scene when I was 7 years old after watching City on the Edge of Forever. Something about the time portal fascinated me. And the blurb here from the company says, undisputably the most popular original series episode, The City on the Edge of Forever is a poignant tribute to heroic ideals. Captain Kirk must allow the death of the woman he loves in order to restore the destiny of the Earth, accidentally changed by Dr. McCoy. This is a story of heroism at its most profound and sacrifice at its highest price.
Okay. So what's the TNG connection here? Or is there one? I can tell you what I think here.
I think
The
okay.
Guardian of Forever always reminded me of the Iconian technology in Next Generation. I think
Yes.
from Discovery, we know that it's not Iconian technology, but that's kind of, I think, what my headcanon decided it was back in the day. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's probably the closest connection to TNG we have. I mean, there's the themes of correcting an injustice, correcting something at cost, that exists throughout TNG. So some sort of sacrifice to the good of the many, if you will.
Mhm.
So there's that connection. I'm trying to think of a specific TNG example. There's something with Times Arrow. I'm forgetting the plot of Times Arrow, but there's something about
Times Arrow is the one where God, I don't remember the name of the species, but they were going back in time and feeding on people, right?
right. But the connection to TNG, I think, is this as Starfleet, as officers, as citizens of the Federation, making that choice that's really difficult for the betterment of the larger group.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm not really seeing like a historical canon connection, but I agree with you. There's sort of this thematic connection to TNG, right? And time travel is used pretty often in Star Trek. I don't know, like some might say too much. I don't know how you feel about that, but
I mean,
element.
I think that it keeps things interesting. There's I think we get some fun things out of the time travel episodes. And it makes I appreciate that these episodes make me think, right? What if this one thing was changed, or these two things were changed, or what have you, right? How it sort of begs the alternate universe idea. Yeah, I appreciate I like the time travel episodes.
Yeah. All right. I don't think I have anything more to say about the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah,
You?
no, I think that's all I got.
All right.
So that was our first collector's card roulette. One of many segments we're going to try on Galaxy Class as Stefan and I take over the hosting duties. What else can we look forward to?
Well, we have some officer exchange coming up, aka we'll be having some guests and guest hosts joining us on future episodes of Galaxy Class.
We'll take some time to go into personnel profiles, where we'll do an in-depth look at main characters throughout Star Trek, The Next Generation, looking at their contributions both from the series and other iterations of Trek.
We'll also keep taking a look at collector cards and playing this little conversational game called Collector's Card Roulette, pulling random cards from the TNG era and seeing how they connect to TNG, if they're Deep Space Nine or another series.
We're going to take some time to discuss episodes that are not discussed so often, our favorite lesser-known TNG episodes.
You'll also hear us talk about some TNG firsts and some fun facts.
Speaking of collectible cards, we will have a special guest host down the road to discuss the Star Trek TNG collectible card game.
And beyond that, there will be much more that we have not thought of yet. Stephen and I are just now taking the show over, and do we really know what we're doing, Stephen? I'm not
I
sure.
mean,
We have direction. We have direction. And
we have
we're going
thoughts.
to continue to evolve this into the next version of Galaxy Class. And we hope you'll take the journey with us.
So, Stefan, we're coming to the end of our first episode as the new co-hosts of Galaxy Class. How we doing? How you feeling?
I think we are going to stick to our mission of having a good time just talking about Star Trek. We'll get our footing and figure out how we go about doing this podcast co-hosting thing. But I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to it.
Yeah, and listeners, thanks so much for bearing with us. We're excited to be bringing you a first new episode after over a year hiatus. We're gonna have a lot of fun. Stefan and I, we met and bonded over Trek at a Star Trek convention. That probably bodes well for conversations going forward. As mentioned earlier on, we were interested in your thoughts. So in a little bit, we'll share our social media information for you to give us your feedback.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristen. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey and Mitch, self-proclaimed gamers who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for the Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through Star Trek Cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Stephen. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into Beta Canon with Peter, host of the Trek Book Club on Twitter and Bluesky, and his companion Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey and MC. If you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Calvin and Amy, with new 8-week seasons in the spring and fall. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the T-Bev. And for our patron members, we have the Hive Mind with script readings and roundtable discussion, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, then Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. You can keep up with all of these shows by following the network at BQN Podcasts on Instagram and Bluesky. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join us on our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, BQN Podcasts on Bluesky, or our Discord server to continue the discussion there. Links can be found in the show notes.
Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Here on BQN Podcasts, you will never hear a commercial on one of our shows. And if you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week commercial free, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Fly reaction show, script readings, and other perks. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show as well.
At this time, we'd like to thank our very own associate producers, Jim McMahon and Davey Willett, and a special thanks to Mark White for our show artwork. We are so grateful for your support. And to all of our listeners, we send out a heartfelt thanks.
Thank you for beaming aboard the Galaxy class. And until next time, make now always the most precious time.
And if we're going to be damned, let's be damned for what we really are.
Engage.